I landed my dream job, a secret I kept from my controlling father until the very last moment. But on my first day, he showed up at my new office, demanded to see my boss, and tried to have me fired. "She can't handle this job," he said. "She's too fragile." This is a story about breaking free from control and discovering personal strength. Before we get to the office, tell me, what city are you watching from today? And don't forget to subscribe for more daily stories. Let's go back to the night I finally told them. For the first 27 years of my life, I was the perfect porcelain doll in my father's perfectly arranged world. He wasn't a tyrant in the usual sense. He didn't yell or rage. His control was quiet, subtle, and suffocating, disguised as love and concern. He had built a successful engineering firm and believed, without question, that he knew what was best for everyone, especially for me, his delicate, artistic daughter. My life followed his blueprint of safe and sensible choices. He picked my university major, helped me get my first job, a stable yet unfulfilling administrative role at a friend's company, where he could easily monitor me. My mother, Marian, was his gentle accomplice, always whispering, "Your father only wants what's best for you, dear." But in the quiet of the night, in my childhood bedroom, where I still lived, I was building a secret life. For 6 months, after they went to bed, I had been secretly applying for jobs, not the safe ones he'd approve of, but the ambitious, intimidating ones at top firms across the city. Positions I knew I could handle, roles that made my heart race. The interview at Alcott Industries, the state's most innovative and competitive marketing firm, felt like a miracle. I walked in as a quiet administrative assistant, and for the first time, spoke my truth. I shared my ideas openly, and their renowned CEO, Mr. Alcott, saw something in me. He offered me a role as a junior creative strategist, a real career, a real future. I accepted immediately, quit my old job the next day, and kept it a secret until that night, the night before my new beginning. I told them over dinner. I waited for a pause in my father's endless talk about his company, took a deep breath and said, "I quit my job at Henderson's and start at Alcott Industries tomorrow." The silence that followed was heavy and cold. My mother gasped softly, but it was my father's reaction I feared most. He set down his fork and knife with slow precision, his face calm yet filled with deep disappointment. "You did what?" he asked in a quiet, dangerous voice. "Without consulting us?" "I'm 27, Dad. I don't need to." He just shook his head, pity in his eyes, a look sharper than anger. "Leah," he said, speaking as though explaining something complex to a child, "you're not ready for a place like Alcott Industries. It's a shark tank. They'll eat you alive. You're a good girl, but fragile. You're not built for that world." He stood, leaving his meal untouched. "You'll fail," he said flatly. "And when you do, and you will, don't come running back here expecting me to fix it. You've made your bed. Now lie in it." I left their house that night, his final words, "You will fail," echoing in my mind. He thought he'd destroyed my confidence, that I'd crawl back begging for forgiveness and safety. But his disbelief didn't crush me. It set me free. He had given me exactly what I needed, a reason to fight, a fire in my chest, and a determination to prove him wrong. The next morning I woke before my alarm, his words still echoing. For a moment I believed him. Fear tightened in my stomach. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was a fraud, an assistant who'd somehow fooled a top CEO into hiring her. I was sure I'd fail. But as I stood in front of my mirror, another feeling grew, anger. For 27 years, I had lived inside my father's definition of who I was. Fragile, artistic, not strong enough. His words weren't prophecy, they were a cage. And that day, I decided to break out. I didn't dress as his delicate daughter. I dressed for battle, a sharp, tailored suit I'd bought with my own money and saved for this moment. I wasn't just preparing for a new job. I was meeting myself for the first time. Alcott Industries was nothing like the sleepy firm my father once approved of. The lobby, all glass and steel, pulsed with ambition and energy. My father's warning echoed. "A shark tank. They'll eat you alive." For a second, my confidence faltered. Then I met Mr. Alcott again, just as intimidating as before. In his 50s, with sharp, intelligent eyes that saw right through you, he didn't coddle or chat. He led me to my desk in the heart of the open creative department and laid out his expectations with precision. "I don't hire people based on their resumes, Miss Cole," he said in his calm, commanding tone. "I hire them for their potential. In your interview, I saw the spark of a brilliant, hungry mind. Don't make me regret it." He handed me a thick project folder. "Your first assignment, the Hawthorne account. Our biggest client. First presentation in 2 weeks. Welcome to the team." And then he was gone, a whirlwind of focus and authority, leaving me with a project clearly meant as a test. I opened the folder, my heart racing with equal parts fear and excitement. This was it. This was real. I was in the big leagues now. For the next 2 hours, I worked with deep concentration, the noise around me fading. I was good at this. My father never saw it, but I could see patterns and stories in data. For the first time, I felt alive, like I belonged. Then, the intercom buzzed. "Miss Cole," said the receptionist, politely. "Sorry to interrupt, but there's a Mr. Arthur Cole here. He says he's your father and needs to see Mr. Alcott immediately. Urgent family matter." Ice filled my veins. How did he even find me? The receptionist's voice grew uneasy. "He insists it's personal and very important." In an instant, I wasn't a creative strategist anymore. I was a teenager caught breaking curfew. Heat rushed to my face. Pure humiliation. He was here to prove himself right. I stood, legs trembling, as curious eyes turned toward me. I made the long walk across the open office to my boss's glass-walled room. The door was slightly ajar. Through the gap, I heard his voice, calm, patronizing, and painfully familiar. "I'm telling you, Mr. Alcott, you've made a terrible mistake. My daughter is a sweet girl, but she's not built for this. She can't handle this job." I froze, hand on the door handle, trapped in my own nightmare. The voice coming through the crack in the door was my father's, but the words felt like a betrayal so complete. They might as well have been spoken by a stranger. "She can't handle this job." He wasn't just doubting me, he was actively trying to derail my future, to pull me back into the small, safe, and stifling world he had built for me. The old Laya, the girl I'd been only yesterday, would have fled. She would have run down the hallway, out of the building, back into the familiar, comfortable misery of her old life, making his prediction of failure come true. But the woman standing there now, in a sharp black suit, was different. She was done running. With a steadying breath, I opened the door and walked in. The scene was exactly as I'd imagined. My father, Arthur, stood in the middle of the sunlit office, his face showing a performance of fatherly concern. My boss, Mr. Alcott, sat behind his large mahogany desk, his expression unreadable, not surprised, just analytical. My father turned at my entrance. For a brief moment, annoyance or panic flickered across his face before he masked it with concern. "Leia, honey," he began softly, "I was just explaining to Mr. Alcott that there's been a misunderstanding." I stepped farther into the room and stood beside my father, not as a child, but as a professional. I didn't look at him. I looked directly at my boss. "Mr. Alcott," I said calmly, "I'm so sorry for this interruption." "Your father," Mr. Alcott replied in an even tone, "has been sharing his concerns about your suitability for this role." "I see," I said. My father seized the opening. "Mr. Alcott," he continued, his voice now low and pleading, "I'm only here because I love my daughter. She's brilliant, yes, but gentle, an artistic soul. This world," he gestured around the sleek office, "is not for her. The pressure, the competition, it will break her. I've seen it happen. I'm begging you, for her own good, to rescind your offer. Let her return to a job where she'll be safe, where she can be happy." He was presenting me as fragile and unstable, a piece of porcelain destined to shatter under pressure, undermining my credibility and professionalism under the guise of paternal love. Mr. Alcott didn't respond to him. He didn't even look at him. His sharp eyes stayed on me with an intense, analytical focus. It was a test, the real one. The project on my desk had only measured my skills. This was a measure of my character. In his own misguided way, my father had just handed me my final interview. "Ms. Cole," Mr. Alcott said evenly, "what do you have to say about your father's assessment?" The room fell silent. My father gave me a pitying smile. Certain I was about to collapse, my boss watched me with a hawk-like gaze, waiting, my entire future balanced on a pinhead. I didn't crumble. I turned to my father. "Dad," I began, my voice trembling slightly, but carrying a strength he had never heard before. "I love you, and I know you believe you're protecting me. But for my whole life," my voice steadied with each word, "your protection has been a cage. You're right, I am a good girl, but I'm not fragile, and I'm done." I said, my tone now clear and final. "I'm done being safe." Then I faced my boss. "Mr. Alcott," I said steadily, speaking as the professional I'd been hired to be, "I deeply apologize for my father's unprofessional and inappropriate intrusion. This is a private family matter that, regrettably, spilled into my work. I assure you with complete certainty it will not happen again." I stepped back, signaling closure. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a launch strategy for the Hawthorne account on my desk, and I'd like to return to it." I turned to leave. I'd said everything I needed to say. The decision was now his. "Miss Cole," his voice, sharp and authoritative, stopped me just as my hand touched the door. I turned. My father stood there, stunned, but Mr. Alcott was looking at me, and for the first time a small, genuine, impressed smile crossed his face. "Don't worry about the Hawthorne account for the rest of the day," he said. "I have a new first assignment for you. Go to Human Resources and renegotiate your starting salary." He paused, his smile widening as he glanced at my father. "I have a strong feeling we're underpaying you." My father, who had entered so full of righteous certainty, now looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. He stared at Mr. Alcott, his mouth slightly open, unable to process the new reality. The fragile porcelain daughter he had tried to protect had just proven herself to be steel. "Now, Arthur, if you don't mind," Mr. Alcott said coolly, standing up, "my new junior strategist and I have a great deal of work to do. I believe you know the way out." He came around the desk, placed a firm, respectful hand on my shoulder, a gesture entirely unlike my father's controlling grip, and guided me toward the door. "Let's go get you that raise," he said with a small, conspiratorial wink. "Then you can tell me your real ideas about the Hawthorne account." As we stepped back into the busy open office, I didn't look back at my father. I didn't need to. I could feel the weight of his silence behind me. My colleagues, who had clearly overheard everything, didn't look at me with pity. They looked at me with respect. I was no longer just the new hire. I was someone who had stood her ground. The HR meeting was a blur. My salary increased by 30%. I got a new title. More than that, I gained a new sense of my own worth. When I returned to my desk, head spinning from the past hour, my father was waiting there. He looked small, out of place in this world of ambition and energy. "We need to talk, Leah," he said quietly. I didn't want to talk. I wanted to work, to dive into the Hawthorne account, to prove Mr. Alcott's faith in me wasn't misplaced. But I looked at my father, at the genuine pain in his eyes, and knew this conversation had to happen. We went to a small coffee shop in the building's lobby. We sat in tense silence, two strangers who'd shared a house for years. "I don't understand," he finally said, his voice raw. "I was just trying to protect you. This world is cruel. I didn't want you to get hurt." I looked at him, the man I'd both loved and feared, and for the first time, I saw him not as a tyrant, but as a flawed, frightened man. A man so afraid of the world hurting his daughter that he had hurt her himself to keep her in what he thought was safety. "You weren't protecting me, Dad," I said. "You were limiting me. You were so afraid of me failing that you never gave me the chance to succeed. You didn't see me. You saw your fears, your idea of who I should be, and that," I said, "the truth settling heavily between us, is a pain far deeper than anything in business could ever be." He sat there, his coffee growing cold, and for the first time in my 27 years, he had nothing to say. He was finally listening. The old dynamic, the all-knowing father and the compliant, fragile daughter, was gone forever. In its place, a new and uncertain relationship was forming. Two adults, two equals, learning to understand each other for the first time. The conflict was over. The real difficult process of rebuilding was about to begin. I walked back into the bright, buzzing open-plan office of Alcott Industries, my heart a mix of fatigue and exhilaration. The confrontation I had feared for most of my life was behind me, and I had survived. More than that, for the first time, I had truly won. Returning to my desk, I saw the thick Hawthorne account folder waiting for me. My new colleagues glanced up, curious, but for once, I felt no fear. Instead, I felt something new, a deep sense of belonging. This was my place, my work, my life. As I sat down, Mr. Alcott stepped out of his glass office. For a moment, I thought he would pass by, pretending the entire awkward episode with my father hadn't happened. But he stopped. He didn't mention my father, nor did he ask if I was okay. Instead, his eyes fell on the open folder. "Welcome back, Miss Cole," he said evenly. "I'm glad you decided to stay. Now, about that Hawthorne account, I expect a preliminary strategy on my desk by Friday. Don't let me down." Then he walked away, confident, composed, and professional. It was the most respectful thing he could have done. He treated me not as a victim, but as a capable employee. The following weeks were a blur of intense, fulfilling work. I dedicated myself to the Hawthorne project with focus and passion, working long hours and pushing my limits. The analytical mind my father had once dismissed as a hobby turned out to be a powerful tool in business. When I finally presented my strategy to Mr. Alcott and the creative team, I watched their polite expressions shift into genuine respect and admiration. Meanwhile, my family relationships began to heal, slowly and awkwardly. My mother, Marion, was the first to reach out, her usual cheerful tone masking discomfort. "Your father's just worried, dear. He loves you," she said. "No, Mom," I replied calmly, but firmly. "That's not love, and we're not pretending it is anymore." A few days later, my father called. The conversation was hesitant and filled with long pauses. He didn't apologize directly, but he did something new. He asked about my day, my work, and he listened. It was a small but meaningful start. 2 weeks later came my first major client presentation. I stood in the same boardroom where my father had once tried to undermine me, my slides ready, nerves steady. Mr. Alcott and the senior team were present, and the clients appeared on a large screen, waiting. This was my chance to prove my worth. Just as I was about to begin, the door opened. Everyone turned. It was my father, looking smaller and older, holding a modest bouquet of flowers. My pulse stopped. For a brief, chilling second, I thought he was here to sabotage me again. But his expression wasn't angry. It was proud, quietly and sincerely proud. "I'm so sorry to interrupt," he said softly. "I just wanted to wish my daughter good luck. I know she'll be brilliant." He placed the flowers on the table in front of me, gave my shoulder a quick, awkward squeeze, and left. For a moment I stared at the bouquet, simple, beautiful, and profoundly meaningful. When I looked up, Mr. Alcott was smiling, genuinely this time. The clients waited expectantly. My father's test was finally over. Mine was just beginning. I delivered the presentation of my life. The ideas that had once lived quietly in my mind now came out with clarity and confidence. I was no longer the fragile daughter he once described. I was a leader, capable and assured. We won the account. It was a major success for the company, and for me. The months that followed were steady and rewarding. My career grew, and so did my relationship with my family. My father and I didn't repair everything overnight, but we built something new through honest, respectful conversations. He started calling for my opinion, not to offer advice. When I visited for Sunday dinners, I was no longer the obedient daughter, but an equal. Even my mother began to change. Seeing her once artistic daughter thrive in a high-powered firm made her reconsider the shallow measures she had used to judge both me and my father. A year later, on a cool autumn evening, I found myself not in a boardroom, but in a small art gallery. It was the opening of my father's first photography exhibition. After retiring from his company, he had, with my encouragement, returned to his original passion. The gallery was filled with stunning black and white images of the city. He was no longer the controlling man I once feared, but someone peaceful and fulfilled. I stood beside him, my arm linked through his as he greeted guests. My mother stood on his other side, proud, not of his business achievements, but of his art. Mr. Alcott was there too, not as my boss, but as a mentor and friend. Looking at my father, I realized something I hadn't before. His control hadn't been about me. It had been about his fear of failure, fear of the world, and by breaking free and showing him I could succeed on my own, I had helped him let go of that fear. His artistic rebirth, this beautiful new chapter, was the most unexpected gift of all. My journey hadn't just been about finding my own voice, it had also helped him rediscover his. In that warm, art-filled room, surrounded by people we loved, I knew our family, once broken, had finally found its way home. An inspiring story of independence, reconciliation, and growth. What are your thoughts on the father's final gesture at the presentation? Share your opinion in the comments below. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more heartfelt stories. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.